What's good, everybody? Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys are preparing physically, mentally, and spiritually for the dark times that are ahead of us. And I hope you guys getting right with God, staying strong. Got some more important information to share with you guys today. And it really amazes me how people can't see where this is going and where this is leading up to with all these things happening, especially with all of these. There's been a lot of these recently, these ransomware, so-called ransomware attacks, at least that's what they've been saying. But we all know who's really behind it. Um, But what's so interesting about this too, right, is the fact that back in October 29th of 2020, they actually warned of ransomware attacks that would threaten the U.S. healthcare system, and now all of a sudden, um, they're warning of it again, and they're talking about how it hit 16 U.S. health and emergency services. As you guys can see by the headline, it says FBI warns Conti ransomware hit 16 U.S. health and emergency services, and this is serious. But like I already said, you guys already know who's really behind this. No matter how many times they continue to push these cover stories and all these narratives that we know is not the truth, right? We already know who's really behind this, and we all know that this is all by design. Um, I'm gonna get right into it though, but understand, folks, eventually it's gonna come to a point where they're gonna do the exact same thing with the power supply. I don't know when. Nobody knows the exact day that it's gonna happen, but eventually you're gonna see them cut the grid off, and eventually all hell's gonna break loose. So you have to prepare yourself as much as possible, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Become as self-reliant as possible. Look more into things like solar generators, because that's definitely something that would help you out, especially in a grid down scenario. So, continue to educate yourself as much as possible, become as self-reliant as possible, because as time goes on, you guys already know things are going to get worse. And once they cut the grid off, folks, I mean, that's all they have to do to really, to create a very catastrophic, event. Um, and then boom, the moment that they do that, chaos is breaking out everywhere. So be ready. Um, don't be one of those people who have normalcy bias just because you don't see anything happening, just because you think that things are getting better. It doesn't mean that nothing else is going to happen. It doesn't mean that, oh, things are not going to get worse. Because if you've been paying attention, you should already know that. But a lot of people still have that normalcy bias, and they're usually the main ones who end up suffering major consequences because they weren't prepared when that big event or that crisis just hits and comes out of nowhere. So it says the adversary behind Conti ransomware targeted no fewer than 16 healthcare and first responder networks in the U.S. And this is pretty serious, but it says within the past year, victimizing over 400 organizations worldwide, 290 of which are situated in the country. That's according to a new flash alert issued by the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation on Thursday. The FBI identified at least 16 Conti ransomware attacks targeting the U.S. healthcare and first responder networks, including law enforcement agencies, emergency medical services, 911 dispatchers or dispatch centers, and municipalities within the last year, the agency said. And like I said, you guys already know who's really behind this. They're going to keep coming out with these cover stories telling you, oh, it was this hacker group and it was these guys and it was that person. But in reality, it's just a bunch of scapegoats taking the blame for everything and being used to hide the real people who are behind this. Um, but the next article is very important as well. Um, but as you guys know, with things like this, it would cause this in itself would cause some horrific things to happen too. Like people on ventilators and whatnot, right? People getting treatment in hospitals. Um, you guys already know that they rely on the grid to be on for them to be able to operate their equipment. So if the grid is shut off, you're going to be seeing a lot of people dying in the hospitals, and that's not going to be good. So that in itself would cause something very horrific and frightening. But I'm telling you, the day that they cut the grid off, whenever they decide to do it, just like Klaus Schwab said in that one video where he mentioned cyber attacks that would threaten the power supply, Whenever they do this thing, you're gonna be seeing hell breaking loose on a wide scale everywhere, and it's not gonna be good. That's all they have to do to create an event like this. It doesn't take that much, and it's no coincidence that they've been programming us with all these movies, especially The Purge and The Walking Dead, for so long, because they're trying to get us to accept these types of realities. And when these realities do really start playing out in real life, you won't even be as surprised because you'll already be programmed to accept it. It says ransomware attacks um, have worsened over the years with recent targets as varied as state and local governments, hospitals, police departments, and critical infrastructure. Conti is one of many ransomware strains that have um, capitulated on that trend, commencing its operations in July 2020 as a private ransomware as a service, in addition to jumping on the double extortion bandwagon by launching a data leak site. It also amazes me how people don't see that this is all planned out. Um, so many different stories coming out about things relating to, ransomware attacks and just cyber attacks, right? You already had the pipeline situation that happened about like a week or two ago. And if they can, let me tell you guys this, if they can make you panic and fight other people over toilet paper and gas, just imagine what it would look like in a situation where they cut the grid off. It wouldn't be good. It would be even worse. But just imagine what it would look like in a scenario like that if they can make you fight over toilet paper and gas. And food shortages, you already know what that's going to lead up to. I just made a video recently about that. Um, and if you don't see what they're planning on doing, just by all of these things that are happening and all of these things that they've warned you about and all of these um, things that they've openly told you that they're going to be doing, then I don't know what to tell you, honestly. But I'm going to get into the next article. And like I said, folks, things like this can already in itself cause something very horrific to happen. And what's also interesting, another thing that's interesting too, is that um about like a week before the whole pipeline situation happened, right? The media was talking about gas shortages in the summer, and then all of a sudden a week later you have the pipeline situation, and then boom, gas shortages happening in the southeast of the US. Like, people really think this is a coincidence. They think that this is all just coincidentally happening, and they think that, oh, this is naturally happening, not realizing what they're openly talking about. Like, people think with such timing like this that this is just a coincidence. Remember what happened with Event 201 when they, I'm not going to say it on this video, but if you've done your research on that, you should already know what they've done. But if you remember what they did with that, you'll notice that months later, they shut down the entire world and they used the excuse of the you know what um, for the reason to shut down the world. But we already know what the main purpose of the whole thing really is. And now you have them, the World Economic Forum, on their website, even talking about Cyber Polygon 2021. And I know I keep talking about this, but it's very serious because understand, folks, all they have to do is cut the grid off and then boom, you know, you're going to be seeing an apocalypse, um, chaos breaking out everywhere in a very short period of time. But you have this World Economic Forum doing Cyber Polygon 2021, and it's a possibility. It's even a possibility that they could even do it earlier than July 9th. But supposedly, according to them, it's on their website. They're claiming that they're going to be doing a supply chain attack exercise on July 9th of this year. And we'll have to wait and see. But I'm already seeing the supply chain being attacked as we speak. You know, it just hasn't reached its worst peak just yet, but eventually it will. And when it does, those people with that normalcy bias, they're going to regret downplaying these situations, and they're going to regret not paying attention and taking action to prepare. It says growing power outages pose grave threat to people who need medical equipment to live. This came out May 15th, not too long ago, of 2021. But it's interesting what's talked about in here because this is something that also happened like very recently, and something very catastrophic um, that was affecting people in Texas too. So It says for 4 decades, David Taylor has relied on a ventilator to breathe. The whoosh whoosh of the machine part of the background metronome of daily life. Then on the night of February 14th, an Arctic blast began to overwhelm the Texas power grid. The next morning, the electricity flickered out in the Fort Worth home that the 65-year-old shares with his mother. David's ventilator switched over at some point to backup battery and kept running. A family member brought over a generator. You see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. When you have things like that, it can even save your life. And spent several hours trying unsuccessfully to get it working in the sub-freezing air, but not by nightfall, the one-story house had gone around 12 hours without power. And that's another thing too. You got to know how to get it working and get it up and running. Um, you can't just expect to buy yourself a generator and then instantly think that you're going to have all the skills and all the knowledge on how to use it and whatnot. You have to look into things like that. It's not that hard, but they are very expensive, but it's very worth it though. I'll tell you that. It's definitely something that'll help you out a lot. It says by nightfall, the one story I already read that. Um, recalled David's 89-year-old mother, Dorothy Taylor. The temperature inside had dropped to the low 50s. David, who has muscular uh, dystrophy, I think I butchered that word, remained in bed beneath a pile of blankets. Dorothy kept one eye on the clock, unsure how much longer her son's backup battery would hold out. I couldn't wait till the last minute, she says. He would die within minutes. Across Texas, other families were facing similar dilemmas. The ambulance provider MedStar, which serves the greater Fort Worth area, fielded more than 50 calls, including Dorothy's, from February 15th to February 17th, involving patients with life-sustaining medical devices and no power. The San Antonio emergency room, Dr. Ralph Riviello, however you say his name, tells Undark that around 18 to 24 people showed up at his hospital during the crisis, desperate to recharge medical equipment. Near Houston, a 75-year-old man froze to death in his truck. His family believes he ventured out to get a spare oxygen tank from the vehicle after losing electricity at his home. And this is why, folks. This is why we tell people to prepare, because no matter how many trolls come on your page and try to tell you, oh, this and that's not going to happen, um, and oh, no matter how many trolls come on your page trying to discredit you for what you say, and no matter how many trolls could try to come on your page and try to tell you, oh, this and that's not going to happen, you got to be prepared for it in every way possible. But let's see. It says these are not just one-off tragedies. Some experts warn that the complex home-based medical care is on collision course with you know what, as severe weather events become more frequent nationwide. We already know that, but we already know also how it's really caused. I'm not going to say it, but prepare yourselves as much as possible, folks. I'm going to keep saying it no matter how many people try to, no matter how many um, normalcy biased people try to tell you that, oh, things are going to be fine and, oh, everything's going to be going back to normal, which is the most delusional thing you could say. But I'm going to continue getting this information out. Prepare yourselves as much as possible physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I thank you guys for watching this video, and I'm out.